We're back and we're just going to get right into it and talk about what what I've heard, the news that I've gathered from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis this past weekend. Um, the news and the rumors that I'm hearing surrounding quarterbacks at the top, and and yeah, of course, this is the number one Shedeur Sanders supporter podcast, so get into we'll get into talking about Shedeur Sanders and the reception of how he's portrayed himself at the combine. But yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. But right now, so what I'm what I've gathered from reading a lot of pieces and listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of clips, and reading the tea leaves on Twitter is that we know who's going number one overall in the draft, and that's Cam Ward. Cam Ward seems like he's going to be the pick at number one overall. We just don't know who's going to be the team drafting at number one overall. It seems like the Titans want to trade out of that pick. Um, but even if they do keep the number one overall pick, it seems like they're going to take Cam Ward also number one overall. So no matter what, Cam Ward, no matter what, looks like is going to be at the top of the draft in 2025. Um, so yeah, going from there, it looks like Cam Ward is by far quarterback one, and there's a gap between Cam Ward and all the other quarterbacks. The the, the scouts, the teams, people in organizations, they feel as if Cam Ward is a future Pro Bowler, a future star in this league, and they see the traits and they love the demeanor and they love what they've seen in interviews and press conferences from Cam. And he's left Indianapolis with everyone feeling positive about him. So going forward, I think there should be no debate, even when we get to pro day season and everything, about who's quarterback one. It's obviously Cam Ward, and at this point, I can't dispute it. Most people can't dispute it. You can disagree with it as far as a scouting standpoint, but the consensus going around the NFL is that Cam Ward will be the number one quarterback taken off the board, no matter what. So no matter who takes him. So it is interesting that last week that I heard multiple teams are calling the Tennessee Titans to try to trade up to number one to get Cam Ward. And I've heard that Cleveland, New York, the New York Giants, and the New York Jets and the Las Vegas Raiders all put in calls that's inquiring about the number one overall pick. Doesn't mean that they're going to do it. Doesn't mean that anything is imminent, but I've heard that those four teams are teams calling about the number one pick specifically to get Cam Ward. Um, and it kind of just goes to show how highly they think of him and how highly they think other teams think of him if like the Jets at 7 or the Raiders at 6 want to move all the way up to 1. And it kind of shows how they feel about Shedeur Sanders as well, because the Giants at 3, the Giants at 3, the Raiders at 6, Jets at 7. It seems very likely that Shedeur would be there around those picks. Like it very much seems like they know Shedeur would be there, but they just don't want him. They don't want him at all. And I I don't want to say I'm shocked or surprised, but I just think it is interesting that they have Cam rated so highly over Shedeur. Now, I never really got upset if somebody had Cam Ward over Shedeur, but I never thought that there was a huge gap. But clearly, in perception, that there's a huge gap between the two. Um, so we're still early in the process, really. Um, Still have free agency. The Sam Darnold domino still needs to fall. Sam Darnold could end up anywhere between Tennessee, Las Vegas. Um, Doubt he goes to the Giants. Giants are looking at Aaron Rodgers. Um, so we're not any closer to figuring out where these players will go yet, but it is pretty much set in stone. Cam Ward will be the number one pick. Second piece of news from the combine is how teams have responded to meeting and interviewing Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to put a clip from Todd McShay on the Todd McShay podcast in here in a moment, and I'm gonna react to it. So here's a clip.
The two people that I spoke to were in meetings and had these individual meetings that I just laid out to you, what they are, who's in there, and why they're important. Teams in the top 10 drafting that need a quarterback. The two people that I spoke to in these positions left the meeting feeling like Shedeur Sanders was not overly concerned with what they thought of him. They had a 15-minute meeting with them, and when they were done, they both said in different ways, different words, that they did not feel like Shedeur Sanders cared all that much about what that organization thought of him. Fascinating, right?
Right. And that's not said in any kind of a positive light, correctly. It wasn't like they came in there and he knew who he was and he wasn't concerned about impressing us. It's more of a negative tone, the way you're saying that, right? You're saying it in a way that he did not come in with, ready to impress, ready to show us what kind of a young man he is, what kind of a leader he can be, all of the positive things. That's what you're saying, correct?
This was not okay. I'll make a joke in a second, but I do. All right, so let's go through this in the right order. A couple of the quotes that I put in there. One said that it wasn't a professional approach. One person that I talked to said the best way I can describe it is it just wasn't it wasn't a professional approach. Shedeur Sanders did not take a professional approach to this interview. The other person I talked to said he wasn't taking it seriously at all. I didn't get the sense that he was taking it seriously. So when you hear it wasn't a professional approach and you hear he wasn't taking it all that seriously, that's not the interview that you're looking, it's not the response you're looking for from a potential suitor, from somewhere you plan to go play. Now, I think it's also important because I'm sure people pull clips and have all sorts of things to say. It's very important, and hear me when I say this. There was no bad behavior. There was nothing disrespectful said or done. There was no kind of altercation. And it wasn't like Good Will Hunting when Ben Affleck went in for Matt Damon and put his feet up on the desk and yelled, "Retainer, retainer." Like, it wasn't that. So I'm not trying to overblow this to try to get clicks and people get, this is not a viral moment. I don't care about the attention this gets. It's just our job to relay the information and the intel that we're getting from people that are important and make decisions or part of the decision process from the teams that are looking to draft a quarterback and have a high draft pick.
First thing from the clip that I want to address is that Todd McShay said, "Let me be clear. There was no disrespect. There was no incident. There was no bad behavior from Shedeur Sanders at the combine." And that leads me to believe that teams, the people that are doing the interviews and that are around him and that are leaking this information to different reporters and podcasters and scouts and everything, they just don't like him. They just don't like him for whatever reason. You could pick the reason, because Deion Sanders is his dad, because he's wearing flashy chains at the combine, um, because he goes up at a press conference and says he's going to be the one to change the franchise. He's confident. Um, they're saying in the interviews that he did it in didn't do it in a professional way, and he didn't take it seriously. And I wish that there was some pushback or some follow up that we could have gotten, because I really would like this person to explain, or these people to explain, what they meant by not taking it seriously. Because again, and I'm obviously biased, because I've watched so much Colorado content. I've seen so many videos from Well Off Media, Deion Sanders Jr. I've seen a whole lot of Shedeur Sanders content. I've seen a whole lot of Shedeur Sanders podcast episodes, press conferences, all types of things. And when they say they see him not taking it seriously, I have to question what that means, because this is a player, this is a person who lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Like, this is a football guy. This is a coach's kid. This is a former player's kid. This is somebody who has had football, whose literal DNA is football. Somebody who has been in the football world for virtually his entire life. And usually these are the kind of guys that people like, but in this case, it seems that the opposite is true. It seems like nobody likes him. It seems like most of these people that are talking to him, doing interviews with him, um, dissecting what he says, they don't like it. They don't like his attitude. They don't like his confidence. They think it's arrogance. They think he's not taking it seriously. They think all type of things. And then Todd McShay also was saying relaying the message that he doesn't care about what we think. And I fail to realize what the problem with that is. Why does he need to exactly who like think highly about what you guys think? And I know what people are gonna say, like, oh well, you're basically in a job interview, you want the interviewers to like you. And yes, I understand that, but if you're confident in yourself and confident in your ability, and you can get the job done, when when you know that people that are interviewing you for the job, they have an opening, they need you, or they need somebody to come and fill the spot, somebody to do the job, and you're confident in yourself that you can do the job. You don't need to kiss ass. You don't need to kiss their feet. You don't need to kiss the ring. You don't need to bow down to whoever you're doing the interview with. Um, you don't need to worry about how much that they like you. Obviously you want to put your best foot forward. You don't want to be disengaged, but at at no point have I ever been able to watch something that Shedeur has done on camera in front of people and say he was disengaged. There's not one time that's true. He is always engaged. He is always speaking in a manner that is authentic to who he is. And if you see that as unprofessional, and if you see that as him not taking it seriously, then yeah, you're right. He's not the quarterback for you. And it's really interesting to see how everyone this, and I don't want to say everyone, but it's the majority of people that whenever his name comes up, they hate him, they talk about him, like they everything, it seems like everything this guy does is a problem. Because him existing is an issue. Um and at this point, I don't think it's even from I don't think it's from Dion anymore. I really don't. I think they see Shedeur Sanders and they think for whatever reason they see, oh, he's a nepo baby. He's got it all handed to him. He's never had to work hard. And I don't think that's true. Like, this guy is working all the time. You can see his body has changed from the bowl game until now. You can see that he's changed. Like, his body has gotten more definition. He's bigger. You can see he's physically been putting some kind of work in. And you can see it on camera that he's been working out with Cam Ward. We've all seen the clips and videos. So you know that he's putting work in. I just don't understand what that means when you say he wasn't taking it seriously. He's a football guy. He loves football. I can't fathom that he wouldn't take an interview at the combine seriously. That doesn't make any sense. And I'm not really even blaming Todd McShay for this. He's just relaying the message that he was given. But it seems like there's a pattern of people talking about Shedeur Sanders in a way that they're not talking about any other quarterbacks. And I wish that people would just be direct, like they don't like say they don't like the guy. There are definitely football reasons on film to say why you don't like Shedeur Sanders, and that's 100% valid. I'd be fine hearing that, reading that, if that's your reasons. But if you just don't like the guy, say you don't like him for whatever reason. You don't even have to say what the reason is. Just be upfront. All this back channeling, saying he's not taking the process seriously. I just don't understand. I don't understand how that could be like that. Just doesn't vibe. Doesn't make sense to me. Now, saying all that, bringing it back to the Cleveland Browns. Um, Talking about the Cleveland Browns in Matthew Berry has an article, puts out an article every year about some of the things that he hears at the combine. And one of the notes that he said that he was hearing at the combine is a lot of teams are uneasy about Shedeur Sanders. Clearly, we can all see that. But one of the teams that does like Shedeur Sanders that people are saying, and like not just one person, multiple people are saying that the Cleveland Browns do in fact like Shedeur Sanders. Now, the caveat is they like Cam Ward, and they like Cam Ward more than they like Shedeur, but they do like Shedeur, and they would be okay with drafting Shedeur. Now, at the combine, excuse me, at the combine, gathering information, most people are saying the Browns are going to go they do want to draft quarterback at 2, but they obviously want it to be Cam Ward. I don't know if that they would pull the trigger on Shedeur Sanders at 2 if Cam Ward were to go number 1 and it wasn't them picking at number 1. But it seems the Matthew Berry little paragraph seems to suggest that they would go Shedeur at 2 if Cam Ward was taken at 1. It says in the article they were the favorites to take Travis Hunter too, at 2, but I'm kind of getting the feeling that they would be okay taking Shedeur at 2, and that makes a lot of sense to me, given the press conference that Kevin Stefanski did last week, and he was saying the traits that he looks for in quarterbacks are like the number one is good decision making. And when I heard that, the first thing I thought of was Shedeur over Cam Ward in his mind. Because yes, Cam has the traits, but I've seen Cam Ward make tons of bad decisions in service of him thinking that his arm is stronger or he can make the play no matter what the situation is. I've seen that more with him than I've seen it with Shedeur. And I could be wrong on that, but that's just what I've seen when watching the film. So I think it's kind of a consensus that when we see what Kevin Stefanski has liked to do in the past and what he's had success with, that Shedeur is a better fit for that type of offense. So I had always believed that the Browns did in fact like Shedeur, but there was never any evidence saying that. Even to the point where I was believing that all the Cam Ward smoke from the Browns was them like doing a smoke screen. Like I thought they were just like pumping up Cam Ward, pumping him up, just for somebody else to go trade for him, um, and let them get somebody else, even if it wasn't Shedeur. I was thinking that maybe they wanted somebody to trade up to get Cam, so Abdul Carter would fall to them or Travis Hunter would fall to them. Because I thought they were okay passing up on him, but I was wrong about that. It seems like they really do have genuine interest in Cam Ward, and Cam Ward is their number 1. But seems like they don't have a huge gap between number 1 and number 2. And Shedeur Sanders is at number 2. So it seems like there's at least one team that reportedly does like Shedeur Sanders, and may if that were to happen, it may get me back on the road to becoming a Browns fan again. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that. Um, and so we're gonna and sticking with the Shedeur topic, and this is the last thing I'll talk about before I get out of here. Um, I'm going to put out a mock draft. I'm gonna do one mock draft. It's gonna be later. I'm gonna drop it in April. But the mock like when I'm looking at what these teams need and hearing what people are talking about, what they're saying, what veteran quarterbacks that teams that need a quarterback want to go after. It really seems like if the Las Vegas Raiders don't pull the trigger on Shedeur Sanders at number 6, like say Abdul Carter goes first, Cam Ward goes to the Browns at 2, and the Giants don't want Shedeur. Like if he gets to 6 and the Raiders are on the clock and they look at Shedeur, they look him in the eyes and tell him, "No, bud, we're going elsewhere. We're taking Ashton Genty." If they don't take him at 6, Shedeur might fall full into the 20s or out of the first round entirely. And the more I go, the more I read, the more I hear, I'm beginning to think that's a very good possibility. I don't want it to happen for him, um, but I think it may be something that he's considering that he's not going to the draft in person. Like he'll be at home, he'll be surrounded by family. Um, and this was decided a long time ago. This isn't any recent development, but I think that was considered that he could slip. Um, and it's better to be home and slip than to be in the green room with cameras looking at your every facial expression every time another pick goes across the board. Um, but I think if he does fall, I'm looking at Pittsburgh at I think 20 or 21. I'm looking at them and I see an amazing landing spot for him in Pittsburgh. Such a good fit, I think, that I almost really want that to happen. I really want Mike Tomlin to get him in the building. And the Steelers have such a great culture, such good ownership. Um, and they draft wide receivers at one of the highest rates in the NFL, like good receivers. They know what they're doing when they draft receivers. So he's gonna have weapons. Um, I think that would be the best possible outcome for Shedeur is to actually just go ahead and slip down the draft and slip right on into Pittsburgh. I really do. I really do. And I know a lot of Browns fans might be listening and they might be cussing at the screen right now, but I think that's a good move. I think that's a good move, and I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility of that happening. Now, if they don't do it, it could get ugly. He could fall out of the first round entirely, and then second round, who knows what could happen. So, um, but yeah, like for him specifically as a person, I'm hoping he doesn't have to go through sliding down the board like that, like an Aaron Rodgers or like Geno Smith had to deal with way back when. I hope he gets drafted in the top 10. Hope he does go to a good situation, but um, I really do think that that is a possibility. So that's what I got coming off of Combine weekend. And thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing and thank you for the support. And until next time, we'll see you.